what does this mean for David Carle? 2 NCAA titles, 2 World Junior Championships, the first head coach to lead a team back-to-back. The first time USA has even played for a gold medal in back-to-back years. They had not played in consecutive finals until David Carle brought them there. He's led Denver to 3 Frozen Fours in his young career. He is 35 years old. And now we're talking about probably one of the hottest coaching prospects in the game. And I went as far, I wrote this in FloHockey. You can go read it on FloHockey.tv. We talk about generational prospects as players. How many coaches by the age of 35 have a resume as good as David Carle does at this point in time? So, I mean, Cam, we've talked a lot about that in general, but what do you think some of the things are? I'll share as well, but what do you think some of the things are that make David Carle a good coaching prospect and a winning coach? I mean, we've had the opportunity to talk to him plenty, and I think that there's a lot of signals there that there's something special going on with David Carle.
Yeah, so like with coaching, it's you can impact the game in a number of different ways. You can't get on the ice and do it for the players, right? So you need to ignite in those players the will to do what it takes to be victorious, right? And you need to maximize the situations for them. You need to know how to press their buttons. Like you said, like a Teddy Stiga, right? The kid was playing 8-9 minutes a night. And then he decides, we're going to throw him out here for an overtime shift. How many teams are doing that, right? Like how many teams would get into 3-on-3 overtime in a gold medal game and they'll be like, I'm going to roll out one of my fourth liners right now. No, they're going to shorten up their bench, right? It's 2 forwards and a D. You're not looking at your bottom 6 guys for the most part. So he knew how to press those buttons. He knew how to get guys involved and engaged. A player like Cole Hudson, who, was only seeing 17, 18 minutes a night, but he knew when to get him on the ice, how to utilize him, how to maximize those things. So for someone who's 35 years old, maybe he can relate a little bit easier to these under 20, these teenage kids, or, at Denver, these U22, U23 players, is that, he's only a decade or so older than them. So he has a little more familiarity with that age bracket and what you need to do to kind of to push them and not push them too far, not push them too hard, but motivate them in the right ways too. So I think that he did a tremendous job, and he always does do a tremendous job of how to use, like we look at a guy like Cole Eiserman, right? 13th forward, playing on the power play. And I said it, like Eiserman had like the sweetest gig at the WJC there. Like he was sitting there on the bench as a 13th forward chirping. Then he'd fly out there on the power play, rip a goal, back to the bench, and now he can keep chirping too, right? Because he's out there and he's maximized. He is a shooter. We need him for this. We don't want him starting possession in the defensive end, because that's not how he's going to succeed and help our team succeed. We're going to use him in offensive zone draws. We're going to use him on the power play. We're going to put him in a shooter's position. He's going to shoot. He's going to score goals. Versus like a team like Canada, they had a player in Bradley Nadeau, a pure shooter. They had him on the goal line, right? On the power play, they had him down low. They're not using their players to the best of their ability. It's a little dig at Dave Cameron again here. So I really appreciate what David Carle did. I think he's a tremendous, tremendous coach. I think he has a blank check right now. And I think he has said that he is comfortable staying in the NCAA. He has a young family. He's not interested in moving. And, he's in a position right now where he could probably stay for decades at Denver, right? Like he could do whatever he wanted and just stay there forever and not have to worry about job security, where if you go to the NHL, you're a first-year coach, you're probably going to a bad team. What happens if you don't get him turned around in 2-3 years? Now you're out of work. Now you're not as like in demand as you once were. Now all of a sudden you're not considered just a pure winner. So there is a lot of risk to move there. But at the same time, if I was him and if I was his wife, probably, let's say that. If I was his wife and I'm looking at this situation being like, you could probably go sign like a 6-year deal for like $4 or $5 million per right now, because he is so hot off those natties, off these World Junior golds. Like he literally could write his own check. And like that job security alone, you sign yourself a 5 or 6 year deal, like as a first time NHL coach. Like I honestly believe that there'd be some teams out there that would be like, what do you want? We'll give you whatever you want right now. And now if you wait a couple more years, like he's not going to be back, just reported that he won't come back for the three-peat in the 2026 WJC, right? And, maybe Denver goes through a little lull and he's not competing in the Frozen Four. He's going to lose that sizzle, right? That really, that momentum. So if it was me and I was advising and that would be the wife's job, and it certainly is in my household here, I'd be like, now's the time. All right. End of the year. Let's take a cut. Let's see where it goes, because you know what? College is always going to be sitting there waiting for him too. things didn't break right, he can come back and he can have his pick probably of all the top schools and go and settle back into. So I think that this would be a really great time for him. I have no idea if he actually will. No insight on that whatsoever, but I think it would be a opportune time to get himself just paid.
Yeah, paid a lot of money. And on top of that, I think you're exactly right. The thing that he has right now between, I think his value is never higher unless he starts winning Stanley Cups right away. And then you also have this situation where, yes, Denver's awesome. It's a great situation. He can be picky, and he might be able to wait for, those teams that are on that next phase of their rebuild, or their next, they're not at the beginning of a rebuild where some of these, teams are. You think about a guy like Ryan Warsofsky, and he's in San Jose at a time where they're just starting the swing in the more positive direction with the addition of Celebrini. But, you look at what happened to Luke Richardson in Chicago, and you look at every single Sabres coach in the history of time, all these different things, and you see that volatility. And I think that that's what David sees as well. I think that it's going to take, obviously a big money, like you mentioned. It's going to take a situation where he's put into success. But here's why I think David Carle is going to be a good coach in the NHL. And it's something that you mentioned, Cam, about the ability to relate with players. I think the way that he speaks with players and the way that he interacts with players, there is still that boss kind of employee situation. But I've always thought and noticed that there's more of a collaboration. There's more of a, this is what I need from you. Can you do it kind of thing? And I think that helps. He is demanding of his players, but I think he relates to them and he also gets the most out of them. The anecdote you shared about Cole Yzerman is a great one, because Cole Yzerman has never in his life been anything less than a top 6 forward, getting regular ice time, 5-on-5, power play, doesn't matter. And here he is, and he says, you're only going to get single-digit minutes here, pal. And Cole Yzerman, at least outwardly, was fine with it. Like, that is, first of all, that's maturation on Cole Yzerman's part. Second of all, it's you bought in. He gets buy-in, and that is the thing. You talk to Zeev, he says everybody buys into what he's doing, and I think it's because there are obviously coaches that can only coach college or junior hockey because they have that power dynamic that works better with younger players. That is not how David Carle operates. He operates more on the level. And so with that, I think that is why he would succeed at the NHL level, why he would be able to relate to the players, but also to work with the players and not think that he has all of the answers. He also empowers his assistant coaches to do their job. He lets the people that are around him do their jobs. And I think that matters. And so to me, It's a great situation. He is in the ultimate position of power right now, because as you mentioned, he's as hot as a pistol right now in terms of what everybody expects from him. And then on top of that, he is going to potentially have this chance to, make a life-changing amount of money, because as much as Denver is going to pay him, they cannot compete with the NHL. There's just not a Division I job in the country that is going to pay $4 to $5 million, and that's just the way it's going to be. So I think, I do think we're going to talk about it again a little bit later in the show in Beyond Belief about David Carle, but I mean, the future is so bright for him. I really do think he is one of the best young coaches in the game today. And not at all surprised that he will not be going for the three-peat. I mean, what more do you have to prove at that point? The tournament will be in Minnesota, so maybe there's the draw of a home tournament, but I think we'll probably see a Minnesota-based coach behind the bench for that one.